Okay. This is chapter 24 of a work in progress. The images being received from Katrina's clipboard, or more precisely the footage coming from the wireless spy pen cam attached to her clipboard. Wait a minute, that ain't right. I don't know what we think. This ain't easy, you know. This ain't easy as shit reading your crap. Let's start with something a little bit more entertaining, maybe. And that's entertaining if you're reading it to yourself, you know, and you got the whole fucking thing in context. But so let's just try to start out with something, you know, that's a little bit more appropriate for a random blitz out of the blue, if you will. Pluto, clenching his cock, turns it round slowly in a quim, shivering Irina's lower lip, divulging that craving which, withdrawing his mouth, he plants a gentleman's line of jewels along her gentle gullet. Stepping on his right foot, she places her other foot square on Pluto's adjacent quadricep while he continues churning his pestle in her mortar. Now wrapping her left arm round Pluto's gyrating neck and her right arm round his swimming shoulders, singing and cooing softly, climbing him to regain the kiss, sut sut, to embrace his forehead with her own, sut sut, his eyes with her own, sut sut, his noise with her own, sut sut, his mouth with her mouth, sut sut, sut sut. Irina raises both legs, placing them on Pluto's shoulders, some quaking yawn emergent despite her yen to gnaw his choppers, despite Cora's invisible reeling in the shadows. Fortunately, our perception of what seems to be happening inside the New Valley Church, this is chapter 26, by the way. Chapter 26, that preceding was chapter 25. Fortunately, our perception of what seems to be happening inside the New Valley Church is not solely dependent upon cameras. Luckily, we are users, not abusers of technology. Elsewise, we may have missed this mixing of interest on the periphery of diverse camera shots, only visible to those of us focusing on various corners in the foregrounds and backgrounds, shadows along the edges and blurry movements obfuscated by other moving objects upon all the setup monitors. Being users, not abusers, seems easier for us than coping with the superficial emptiness of material pleasure, preferring instead the profound emptiness of media, the medium being that intuited vacuum we need to fill. Our trajectories as material objects are strangely attracted to the void. That's why we do what we do. That's why we find ourselves here. Like water and electricity, we take paths of least resistance. Once our skill snatches something attractive, we can cease the method that got us here, exploring certain situations further, according to whatever seems now fascinate us. In this our minds seem free, perhaps, to alternate their means of thought-feeling to emerge from whatever form of bankruptcy they might find themselves in. At the moment, it seems Muhammad X's trailing of Bartleby, the ex-Mayan daykeeper, catches our attention. Experiencing some sort of whimsical emergency or intuitive predicament, perhaps, Our eyes behold Bartleby's squinting gaze, apparently focusing through a crack in the church's stained glass window, a crack severing the image of Christ's ascension from his earthbound flock, a crack that might have paralleled the horizon, but, being a crack, it seemed crooks upward into the sky, decimating a seemingly incongruent Bible verse, perhaps from the book of Revelations. Now the crack zigs like that, and you see a Bible verse, 4 lines. The first line on the top reads, "The great city was crack into 3 parts, comma." The second line, "And the crack of the nation fell, comma." Third line, "And crack remembered great Babylon, comma." Fourth line, "To make her crack the cup of the fury of his wrath." And it's here it behooves us to put down the tools and gaze through the fissure ourselves, to see what Bartleby's perhaps seeing or not. A glowing red object the size of a ladybug hovering in the western sky at a 30-degree angle from where the sun presumably set. For a moment it appears to us to have dark spots like certain species of coccinellidae, but now flickers and glows pure red once again. Muhammad X, whom, if you remember, suffers from something of a human chimera complex due, conceivably, to his abnormally small penis, approaches Bartleby and looks over her shoulder through the crack, seeing, one might assume, the same object we're seeing. He seems an obese Maasai American whose mind has traditionally coped with his penile inadequacy by shrinking its perceived body size to that of a pygmy. To Muhammad's mind, his large body was merely a disguise, but to pygmies everywhere he was a terror greater than Antaeus, bullying them into unwinnable, sometimes fatal, wrestling matches. Despite all these shortcomings, however, his Messiah, Irina, never deterred by a small pud, filleted it with gusto, telling X in the afterglow that he'd need to obey Mother Nature from now on if he were to attain salvation. In the short time since Irina slurped his willy, and if memory serves right, it was just this morning, Muhammad's perception of his virile membrum has grown some 3 inches in length and 1 inch in girth. His need to terrorize and arm wrestle pygmies has nearly evaporated. He's not sure if this is good or bad. He's feeling this change may be the salvation Irina spoke of, or the damnation she implied awaits him, should he fail to hear nature's true call. "Excuse me, miss," X whispers over Bartleby's shoulder. She's ignoring him, looking at the object, feeling resentment over the failure of her business venture, her failure to meet the needs of her customers, her failure to keep adequate records, and failing for that most common reason of business failure, inadequate location. She feels alive at the wrong time, existent in the wrong place, undeserving the insensitivities of the benighted fools populating her community. In her mind, One might imagine her lamenting the absence of the old idealists, longing to become Thoreau in his cabin with his brute neighbors, who never requested daily readings based on their personal calendars, who lived their lives terrorized, ecstatic, ravenous, contented, livid perhaps, each according its just place, but never actually troubled by their predicaments, their situations, or about what they might mean in the long run, absenting their pathologies. But one can never be sure of anything, it seems. Miss? She might be thinking, or feeling might be closer, a certain dread or suspicion about the game being played out here. How it increasingly seems an endgame she would. Madam, should I resist or go with the flow if I'm to be saved? Tell me how to obey Mother Nature. Muhammad wants to embrace something, but he can't see it. X is not marking the spot. Bartleby lowers her eyes from the crack in the stained glass window, not quite to the floor, but certainly toward the large Masai intruding upon her thoughts. Whether the fool knows it or not, he wants sex, not information. Much to our amazement, his erection is somewhat palpable under the thin material of his dress slacks. I would prefer, whispers Bartleby. What? Not to. Not to what? Be stupid. X puts his arms around Bartleby, who seems to vanish, leaving him clutching air, his eyes settling on